Welcome to Grab a Load, and in this week's installment of Tony Tech Topics, we got some more news to talk about, and it's going to be a fun, interesting start here with the dumb topic of the week, or the dumb statement of the week, which is AMD. Leave it to them to make sure that they can say something dumb. I, this is what makes it so stupid is that Frank Exor, which works in the Radeon team, I can't remember his title exactly. He's consumer and gaming marketing at AMD. He co-founded Alienware, and some people have came out and talked about how 8 gigs is just not enough for gaming for the 9060, and how it was dumb, how it's not too expensive, everything else. And he decides to come out because he doesn't know what everyone else did at AMD or how they even marketed it, which is majority of gamers are still playing at 1080p and have no use for more than 8 gigs of memory. Most play games, WW are mostly esports games. We wouldn't build it if there wasn't a market for it. If 8 gigs isn't right for you, then there's 16. Same GPU, no compromises, just memory difference. Well, just the compromises of if run that memory buffer out there, Frank. Or did you remember, Frank, how you marketed this GPU, right? I expect that you, of all people, right, since you're in marketing, would know that you marketed it as a 1440p gaming. AMD recommends it for 1440p gaming. So this wasn't going after the 1080p market like you say here. Now, maybe that's where, my suggestion of even not having it or naming it a 9060 would have made much more sense. But, this is just AMD being in their hypocrisy, just, sticking their foot in their mouth. Just, you don't make statements like this, Frank. It's just bad. You apologize, you grovel, you do something, but now you just put it in. You just made it worse for AMD because now it's a 1080p graphics card for $299. Really? That's what you're gonna say? Or right? Maybe you should have priced it where the 480 launched when that was a 1080p card for $229. I even know that was getting down to what was it? Yeah, that was $229, and you could buy it for $199 at times. There until the mining boom came out. But so you're going to charge an extra, $70 for this, really? $60, right? $70 someplace in there, depending upon where it sells in the end. And this is, yeah. And Hardware Unbox had a great comment here on Twitter as well. 8 gig versions of the product, such as the 9060 XT, are designed for system integrators to melt consumers, which is why AMD and Nvidia misled by using the same name. Just be honest. Exactly. Great point. Again, this is just AMD sticking their foot in their mouth. This is not something that they should have ever released. They should have called it the 9060. Them and Nvidia, for that, they're splitting those gigabytes of RAM differences. Bad business move, and I hope that they continue to get pounded for it because it's not acceptable for them to keep doing this. And if you are out there and you're buying a 8 gig card when you thought it was going to be 16, you run into VRAM buffers, you know, well, first return it. Hopefully you're underneath the warranty and you can return it, get your money back, and get the one that you really need. But also comment on Frank just to show him that, I do run on a frame buffer here and there. So 8 gigs is not enough. This is where, again, it should be different names. I don't like putting a different memory nomenclature on these names just to differentiate. I don't like that at all. You should have dropped that down. What it should have been is an 8 gig should have been a 9050. The 9060 just plain should have been around 12 gigs, 10, 12 gigs, someplace in there. And that would have been more acceptable. But how they did with this, $299, the 480, we all know how long ago that is. That's a really long tooth. I got some 580s around here someplace over there. So they're sitting on my pool table. But they were, that was a 1080p card, right? Now I'm, 1440p. If you're going to talk about it being 1440p in your slides and stuff, then don't come out and tell me it's a 1080p card. No, don't do it. So yeah, get your facts right there, AMD. Get sorted out, and of course, AMD marketing screwing something up. What's new, right? That's kind of how they go about doing this. I just sometimes you wonder. Now AMD did announce all this stuff here. They announced some Threadripper stuff at Computex as well. Some ROCm and the AI Pro GPU. Want to go just touch on those. I did do a video about that, so go check it out if that is something you're interested in there, and be sure to, well, get the information and then wait for reviews, right? That's what you're gonna wait for. At least they're not doing the whole Nvidia thing. They're not that bad at marketing, right? Where they're going through and saying this cannot, you cannot test and release the results for the 8 gig. We're going to be hiding that 5060 here, which is what Nvidia did. And why don't we just jump into Nvidia? Nvidia did jump out and have a new game-ready driver this past week. So the 576.52, so that is got support for the 5060. So we can now test it for everyone that goes and gets a 5060. Yeah, wait, just get the 16 gig. I think that's where you need to be. And yeah, so there is Copite 7 Kimi. I hope I got that right. That leaker did come out with some super stuff. I also saw this in Moore's Law is Dead, and he had commented some stuff on this with the super as well. They're working on a super. If the rumor's true that they're going to come out with it later this year, I am shocked that they want to do something so quick. This shows that they are a little more worried, about AMD where they're at, but really that 9070 really isn't a 5080 competitor, so why is this there, right? Why are they pushing for this, right? They're waiting for those 3 gig GDR7 modules, right, to get this out for the 24 gigs there, and maybe they get a little bit better bandwidth. They kind of close that gap in between the 5080 and the 5090 a little bit. I'd be interested to see where they set the price on this. I think if they wait until next year, this is going to be a lot different than if they try to rush it out and get it into this year, right? I'd say for them to even put it next April-ish, they probably a year out, they can see where the market's settling into, how stock is, and where they can charge it. Because let's say AMD's just selling theirs and they still own that 5080 and 5090 market because of the high end, because AMD's not there. Do they really have to bring that price into where maybe the current 5080 is? I don't think so. I think that they can then split the difference, or maybe 40% of the difference, right, between that 5080, 5090, slot this in, and still get a sale across there and still have move some stock. So it'll be interesting to see what Nvidia does here. But if granted, I want cheaper graphics cards, but if I'm looking at it from the business side of Nvidia, they could easily just kind of go through, split this, and be like, you know what, this is where we're gonna add stuff into, and that's gonna be slotted, and people are gonna buy it because there's no competition there, and Nvidia kind of owns that market currently. So another thing is that Samsung for the 2025 OLED LEDs, which I have a older one, so I won't be getting this, but they're going to have G-Sync compatibility now on this. Now there was, I believe, FreeSync and some of the adaptive sync stuff already supported on there, especially on the older ones, but that flagship one, S95F, I have the S95B, so you can see, if you go through the letters, you can see how many I'm behind. But that model is now going to be the G-Sync compatible models for those of you that have the NVIDIA graphics card and are using it on their TV. Pretty cool that they finally got that in there. This is some of those things where I like to see more technology in TVs like this, especially if we're looking at, let's say the consoles are kind of, you got the PlayStation, right? Good console. I'm guessing they're going to go with another one. You got Nintendo, which will continue on their console path. But then you look at Xbox and you're like, where is Xbox going with this? And with more and more games, even on PlayStation side, coming to PC, why not just get a PC and throw that in front of your TV? Make that your gaming device for the TV space. And maybe that makes a lot of sense. Maybe that makes where Xbox is going, that's where they want to go to. I'd be perfectly okay with it. I like gaming on the TV a little bit, especially when I want to kick back and enjoy myself rather than be at my standing desk. But we'll see where this all goes to, especially with Xbox here, because I think there's a lot of stuff that could be interesting that Xbox puts forward and really enable somebody to be like, you know what, this Samsung TV with G-Sync actually makes a lot of sense for me. Great viewing, plus then I get the gaming experience that I want when I go there, and the console is, up to just a entry level PC that we can put together and get it going, right? So if you can kind of combine those two, I think you're really off to the races there. And that's something I want to maybe try is building maybe take the 90, 60, 16 gig. I think the 8 gig probably would get me better price in there, but I don't want to go with the 8 gig. I think AMD screwed up that price and also screwed up their messaging. So I really don't want to support that, neither with Nvidia, right? Way too much for the 8 gig cards, but you kind of put that system together, 350, you got another 350 to put together your motherboard and stuff like that. You get a combo kit from Micro Center or someplace, and then you put that together. You probably need a case or do something there, power supply, and then a storage, and then you might have something pretty reasonable to go and play some games on. And that's maybe what I'm going to try to see how close with new parts. I think used parts you can get that price down a little bit, but I like to go just try it with new parts. Somebody just getting the computers wants to just go buy some new stuff, and they're trying to get a console, equivalent or stay in that console price range as close as possible, but have a computer for it, and you get some benefits with that. So maybe that's coming up here, hopefully on the channel at some point. That I find that really interesting because I'm kind of looking at that. The one downside is, while I'm on this tangent, is that I enjoyed Halo. I played it. I went through the whole Master Chief Collection, and Halo 5 I do not think currently is on the PC yet. Now, maybe the Master Chief Collection does come to PlayStation. If that happens, I do think at that point it would come to PC, but I'm not going to hold my breath on that right now. And that's the one downside where, okay, fine, I don't get to play Halo 5. It was a fun game, but that would be disappointing. But I'm not going to, the way Microsoft's going, the way console prices are going, do I just replace that with a PC and get that benefit? So we'll see where that is. You also have some, yeah, we'll see where that leads to on that project. But let's jump into Intel because I think I'm through my Nvidia stuff. Who knows? We'll come back to it if I, oh no, I'm not done with my Nvidia stuff. I thought these were in order every single year. Jensen, his ego is, well, out there. Uh, well, okay. Perform is going to be, instead of the Moore's law, he's going to call it the Jensen Wong, the Wong law, which is reveals performance is on track to double in just a quarter. So that's how he's going to go through and do this. I find it interesting that, let's name a new law after us and I'll take that credit for it, which, yeah, fine. I get it. Probably do the same thing. Okay, I would do the same thing. But that's one of those things where you just got to chuckle a little bit, kind of, and see where Jensen's at. So, yeah, it is. It is interesting. Oh, so and Nvidia. Wow, my tabs are really out today. So my order, they're trying to create a mega AI factory in Taiwan, which will have over 10,000 Blackwell GPUs. So that's pretty cool. A little interesting that they're going to develop this with 10,000 Blackwell GPUs. What maybe they got enough GPUs and they just selling everything they can and they're keeping 10,000 for themselves. Fine, but this kind of points to me that Blackwell wasn't selling as fast as they were anticipating. So they are building their own AI factory with Foxconn, right? Or maybe this is, just a whole deal, but they're building their own AI factory because it kind of points to, sales weren't as good as what we expected. That's just one thing I kind of take out of there, and you know, it's it's one of those things where you're just like, well, why would you take 10,000 GPUs for yourself when you could be selling those at a, you know, nice premium? So that's there. Let's jump over real quick to the next chip for China is going to be a little bit different. H20 cannot be modified anymore, and they were denied the request from the United States government to be able to sell some of that stuff. So I wanted to throw that in there, right? Little global politics here. So that's coming, and you just have to kind of deal with it because that is kind of where we're at. And before we get into Intel, let's go back to AMD because I screwed that up and then see all my tabs right. So AMD is saying that TSMC's 2 nanometer processors are just superior to everything out there. That could probably be because we're still waiting for Intel to get everything on their side ironed out. We're Samsung right now, and you got some new fabs coming along. There's the Japanese one. I believe South Korea wants to do one too, investing in some of their own manufacturing, semiconductor manufacturing. That's going to be interesting to see where it is. I like to see where some of these fabs are coming back. We used to have a ton of fabs, and then kind of over the years they kind of died down, were bought out. Global Foundries stopped competing in that leading edge. So if AMD could be right here in this, but this is one of those things where you're just like, yep, uh, sounds about right for right now. And that doesn't mean that they're always going to be that way, right? And at least from what AMD's saying, is that's where it is right now. Well, that's where AMD is open to whoever has the best and leading edge, they're willing to go with as well. So that's one thing I took away from that. Now, AMD did buy ZT Systems, and they're going to sell part of ZT Systems away, and I think the deal is 3 billion in total, I think roughly. So that's going to be an agreement to sell off just the what was it, infrastructure and manufacturing business to Stanima or Stanmina. So that's there. AMD will still have the other side of this because they paid a total of 10 billion, or it's 4.9 billion acquisition. So back in March, the chip maker is expanding that portfolio, right? They kind of have to, especially where Nvidia is gone as well. So this is a purchase that did the server design, and they have, or how do I phrase this? AMD will still have the server design and the customer enablement, just not the manufacturing infrastructure. So it makes sense, right? They want to have that design to be able to go after where Nvidia is at, especially with some of their systems. And you develop some of these little racks like or like Nvidia did, makes them competitive in that landscape. So pretty interesting with where this is all going because man, there's a lot flying around, and so this AI competition in the server realm, of course, that's going to be going on for a little bit, right? Until it kind of irons out, and we'll see where market share is. Now, jumping into Intel here, we're going to start with Arrow Lake. Now, German retailers, right? They post the numbers, and you can even see on sales charts on Amazon here in the United States and kind of see where it is. But Intel is not selling well in the DIY market. Now, that could be different in some of the bigger OEMs and stuff like that. But th- there's not much sales. I mean, the processors don't show up at Amazon when you go through and check. I like to check, once a day at least, trying to see where processors are and stuff. But Intel is Arrow Lake. Even their 13th and even 14th gen are selling looks better than the Arrow Lake stuff. So that's and that could be partially where Arrow Lake came out, and it was on the end of the 14th gen, fiasco where people are kind of looking. It didn't have great performance. It wasn't really exceedingly beating the 14th gen there. So you're kind of looking at that. And then let's say you're wait a couple years before you bought into it, and you're starting to look at it and you're looking at like, you know what? It's a little long in the tooth, and now we're hearing rumors that the next generation is going to be on a different motherboard. Why do we even then go through and want to buy this? And if you're in the market for a computer, that would make sense, because if you want to upgrade your CPU at all or take advantage of it, I think that that would be one thing to kind of say, this I'm going to avoid. So makes sense. It's a little sad that's where we are with Intel, but I really want them to get back in the game. I want them to be able to compete at a high level, because I think that would really help the market out overall. So Intel also has their Pro Battle-Managed GPUs. You got 24 gigs of RAM there as well. Some of the AI work, they call it the B50, the B60, and there is a custom card with 48 gigs. That's a dual GPU, I recall, as well. I think I reported on it last week. Really kind of nice to see them get in this market and get into the pro market. I think that'll help them out with their drivers as well. Maybe they're just doing a pro driver, but some of that stuff can translate back to the client driver, so or consumer driver, I should say. So I'd like to see that, and we'll see where they are able to go off to the races and take advantage of that. So this is a good thing. So. Quick little thing here from Microsoft is that Microsoft says that there's this Luma malware, and it's affecting Chrome, Edge, Firefox. It's going rampant. I guess now they have uh, items to be able to clean it up in their Defender. Yeah, so Defender's able to clean this up now, but it was large scale, affecting a whole bunch of stuff, and now they're able to go through. And so yep, just want to be aware of security issues, because that seems to always be happening. So we got security issues. Let's see, on the same topic of Microsoft here, the FTC against Microsoft is now dropping the case against Microsoft for the acquisition of Activision Blizzard King deal. So that's over officially here in the United States. I know this has been closed on for a while, but you know how it goes here. There's legal stuff, and it's going through the courts, and here we are. So, um, yeah, let's see here. Let's end on some gaming. So, I used to play a lot of Battlefield back in the day when Battlefield was first coming out and stuff. And the footage that I'm seeing for Battlefield 6 looks really interesting. It's not, officially revealed, but the gameplay kind of takes me back to, some of the earlier games. And this might be something, if they have a good, single player mode, I might have to go and try it. Get it again. This is taking me back, and that's what I kind of like, is some of these games that, yeah, you enhance on the graphics, make, something a little bit better, and still have that same play style in some of the older games that you fell in love with. Yeah, this makes it interesting for me. So Borderlands 4 is saying that it's going to let you go anywhere, and we're not going to put a mini map on it. Gearbox was putting a lot of information about this, and for open worlds, I do like a mini map, but man, if you can go anywhere, they say they're embracing a lot of verticality, You're going to be able to have more verticality in Borderlands 4 than you ever seen before in a Borderlands game by far. And when you have a layered environment, a top-down two-dimensional view is extremely confusing. With a compass and arrows that tell you if things are up or down, you will have a much better sense of spatial awareness. So we're going to be able to see how this is. I find open world games fun. I know I have a friend that really likes open world games. I'm sure he's going to get this, and I'm sure he'll have a good eye right out, when it comes out on how well this game is performing and how well he likes it. So, I'll probably wait for him to buy it and play it, and then give me a feedback. But that's how it usually happens. He plays a lot more games than I than I have time for, so he can give me the feedback of what he likes and go from there. So, Cyberpunk Sequel is in the works, or did I get that right? Yeah, they're going to do another city. That's and here's what WCCF Tech is quoting from it is like Chicago gone wrong. So what does that mean? Chicago gone wrong. That's going to be a second city in the sequel. So the Cyberpunk 2077 sequel. Really interesting. I think that they've done a good job in Cyberpunk 2077 since launch to really make that game, uh, something people really like to play. I know when it first came out, man, was it a rocky launch, but they really kind of ironed it out. Impressed with the team there at CD Projekt Red, really with the what was it, the expansion with Phantom. I'm blanking on it here, but they did a good job of even enhancing that game so much where it's almost like a whole new game. So uh, yeah, we'll see where that is, and we'll jump in here to Grand Theft Auto 6. There's been some patents that have came out, for different things. Really, I, Rockstar doing all these patents. It's going to be interesting to see, what is, what the road they had, road networking for smoothing, enhanced rendering for sharper detail. Some of these things out there. More lifelike, fluid characters. If they do a lot of this stuff and have it, they're going to have a very impressive game. I mean, this game's going to rake in a lot of money as soon as it's out, especially if they're able to implement some of these uh, things and get these patents actually in real world scenarios. So, wow. And we'll end on the rumor for PlayStation, which is Starfield is going to be coming to the PlayStation 5. So, I can't, we expect this by now. There, we'll see what it is for. We'll see how this all keeps going. I'm befuddled by how Microsoft is handling all this. While I can see putting your games and being more of a publisher rather than just having your consoles and putting your games everywhere. Maybe Game Pass is the play that Microsoft really wants to push, but I think you're continually without having a good direction of maybe the next console, where you're going, what you're kind of doing, putting all these games on PlayStation and PC all the time. I think if you want to have an Xbox, let's kind of rebrand this a little bit and make Xbox a thing more for PC and everything else, because unless they come out and hit something really good on the console side, PlayStation's been eating the lunch of Xbox for consoles for a couple generations. So, I mean, I even have an Xbox, but yeah, their controller, I really like their controllers. I think their controllers are really nice, but it's the whole, let's not make a decision on these, is really just of what we're kind of doing. And we know that most games are coming. Why don't we start seeing the announcements, seeing roadmaps for this, for PlayStation and stuff like this? I get it, a delay. I think that's reasonable for Xbox users to get a exclusive for a time period. I think that makes sense, but there's just it just seems a little bit of, we want to bring everything everywhere, but let's have a list of where everything is so people can make a good decision. And let's make sure it's all on PC too. Goes back to my Halo 5 comment from earlier. But that's where we're going to end it here today. I want to thank you so much for watching Gray Overload and helping this channel grow. Thanks for tuning in for this week's news and Tony Tech Topics as well. I want to be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon, watch another one of my videos. That really does help out the channel. Until next time, God bless.